Hey guys, it's Charlie. So I have this other channel where I do much more polished, like long form video essays. I'll link it below if you want to check it out. This one is more about just getting really interesting ideas out there as fast as possible without the fancy like videography. The question that I want to ask today is, what is the relationship between intelligence and physical activity, or can exercise make you smarter? If you're like me, then you grew up with like the jock versus nerd dichotomy, in which you either like fell into one or the other, and there were the people that worked out, and then there were the people that read, and those were separate. And the other thing that you grew up with, if you were like me, was the concept that you had a finite number of brain cells. Like, I was taught this as a child, like, you better not hit your head because you'll run out of brain cells and then you'll be dumb. Of course, we know that this is not true because we now believe in neurogenesis, which is the theory that your brain cells are constantly replicating. We can observe this in fMRIs. It was discovered in 2007 and it's since been verified just a trillion bajillion times. So what I want to break down in this video is I want to talk about the nerd versus jock dichotomy in the way that I learned about it, which is through this book called Spark. His main case is that exercise actually not only does all those things that most people like sort of think that it does, which is it makes you less anxious and it lowers your stress levels. Which the kicker that I think makes this book really interesting is that it actually talks about how literally exercise can actually make you smarter by building up more cells in your brain. The book starts out with a scientific study that occurs in a public school, where instead of cutting gym class and giving kids more time to work on literature, they actually added gym class before literature so that kids would have more BDNF in their brains when they were going to literature class. What they also needed to do was, rather than do an objective sort of like, oh, did you run a half marathon or did you run a mile thing, rather than doing these objective external measures, they hooked the kids up with heart rate monitors and they asked them to run at 75% of their maximum heart rate. This way it was not about the like objective standard, but it was actually about you and about your body. And what they discovered consistently is that if you can work out at a certain high intensity, that your own 75% of your max heart rate, 80%, and you're in this moderate to high intensity exercise region, then you can actually literally, it takes like 4 hours from the time that this chemical is released to literally start growing new capillaries inside your brain to feed the new cells that you are creating all the time in your brain. And brain-derived neurotrophic factor is it's something that your brain creates that helps. It's something that your brain creates that helps build more of your brain. And this chemical, BDNF, is released when you're at moderate to high intensity exercise. So I found this book fascinating. It's personally transformative because it's actually motivating me to work out, because I've always been in this objective, like, I should work out because it's a good thing for me to do thing. But this is actually saying, no, screw running 5 miles. Run however much you have to run in order to get to your moderate to high intensity exercise region. As my Uncle Dave used to tell my dad, if you can only do 1 push-up, do 1. Of course, we would have to modify that to be, if you can only do 1 push-up, do 1 push-up, if 1 push-up is what's going to get you to 75% of your maximum heart rate, so that you can increase your brain-derived neurotrophic factor released to increase the rate of neurogenesis in your brain. But still, just do 1. The final reason that I want to talk about this is because I find it philosophically super interesting, because I've also grown up, in addition to the nerd jock paradigm, I've also grown up in this, like, and Western society has grown up in this, like, body-mind duality understanding of the universe, where we think that either you are this, like, monk-like spiritual person, or you're this, like, visceral, like, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This research is starting to break down that dichotomy for me, because the relationship between the mind and the body is not like superlative mind controls everything associated with body, or like body controls everything that happens in the mind. But research like this actually indicates that your mind can change what your body is doing, and then your body in turn can change what your mind is doing. Check out this book and let me know what you think. There's a lot of really, really cool science in there. All right, so just to wrap things up, do you have a finite number of brain cells that you're going to run out of one day, so you better be careful with? No, you can get smarter and smarter and smarter the older you get, because you're constantly building up new cells. Is there a dichotomy between jocks and nerds, because jocks work out and nerds don't? Nerds work out their minds and jocks work out their bodies? No, it's a self-reinforcing spiral wherein if you work out more, you can work out your mind more, and if you work out your mind more, you can work out your body more. What's the science behind this? There's plenty of neurotransmitters. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor is one of them that's just stuck in my head right now, but Dr. Radley's book has a lot of interesting information about more of them. And then finally, what's the philosophical takeaway from this? The philosophical takeaway is we have this long-term, like thousands of years in the making, like dates back all the way to Plato, concept that the mind is somehow more real than the body, and we draw this duality between body and mind. This book starts to draw that into question. It's not actually a duality between the body and the mind. The body and the mind are intrinsically related. All right, cool. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit like, subscribe, send to a friend who might need a kick working out. Hope this was useful and or entertaining and or interesting. All right, see you guys in the next one.